So we have a special guest here today. He was here with us yesterday from the US State Department. I'm not going to say too much. I'll invite Prof up to introduce him, but just want to give you guys a little bit of, just provide you with some background. In light with the launch of our CCE initiative yesterday, it's important that we also understand, how are we able to leverage this initiative? And over and above that, how are we able to, through the strength of partnership and collaboration, leverage opportunities and basically provide an impact, to ourselves and within our community? So I think that's something, that I'm looking forward to learning and hearing from today. So with that, let me pass it over to our president, Professor Fred, to introduce our special guest.
Thank you, Pav. All right, good afternoon. So I am so excited to introduce our guest speaker this afternoon. As you can see, I've grayed a lot, but he's also graying. When I met him, there was no gray hair. He was a young, energetic undergrad at the time at Virginia Tech. That was 1996, long before some of you were born, right? And when our CCE discussion started, Pav sent me a profile and said, "This is the gentleman that we are going to meet from State Department." We were all excited. Said the meeting is tomorrow. So then I looked at the profile. I know this guy from somewhere. Now, remember when I met him, he didn't have any gray hair. So I'm like, I know this guy. Then I scrolled down and said, Thomas Debass. I said, oh my goodness. I've known this man forever. Thomas currently serves as Chief Partnership Officer at the US State Department. He leads the department's private sector engagement efforts and provides thought leadership on partnerships related to economic growth, global finance, entrepreneurship, and innovation. Thomas has played a leading role in promoting and institutionalizing the role of public-private partnerships as a tool for advancing foreign policy and development objectives. Thomas is also an adjunct professor at George Washington University, teaching graduate courses in strategic foresight, startups, and strategy. Prior to joining the State Department, he was a lead economist with the Overseas Private Investment Corporation, IPIC. Thomas holds a master's degree in applied economics from Virginia Tech and a bachelor's degree in economics, also from Virginia Tech. In addition, he holds an executive certificate in international business management from Georgetown, certificate in executive leadership from UC Berkeley, as well as certificate in futures thinking and strategic foresight from the Institute for the Future. Thomas is a 2020 Samuel J. Heyman Service to America Medals finalist and a recipient of 2016 D&DA Wood Pencil Award for innovative use of mobile technology. Ladies and gentlemen, telling you how proud I am of this man is an understatement. Okay, it's good to see a fellow alum doing so well when 22 years ago, we didn't even know where the future was headed. So join me in welcoming your guest speaker. He's now a new friend of Academic City, and the CCE is his brainchild. Thank you all, and your guest is here. Thomas.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you. That's perfect. Thank you, Fred. Thank you so much. As Fred was saying and talking about when we were together at Virginia Tech, it reminds me of our gray hair. It's kind of depressing to know we're getting old. When we were together, we thought we were like the coolest cats on campus. Now we're the oldest cats here. I have 3 daughters, and my daughters every day remind me that how old I am, which is okay. But the thing that shocks me is Every time I tell them something new, they say, no, you don't know, you're too old. And you know what they say to me? You were born in 1900s. And initially I was like, what are you talking about? And they're technically correct. We got born in 1900s. But anyway, thank you, Fred. Thank you so much. You're too kind with your words. And I think the pride is all mine to see you. It was a pleasant surprise to see you on that screen, but now to come here and see what you've built and what you've accomplished, man, I'm beyond words. So I'm so proud of you, brother. So if you indulge me, what I'm going to do today is I'm going to be less of a diplomat, more of just your peer. As an African, as someone who cares about higher education, as a professor, I want to just indulge me to kind of take you into this journey of this course that I teach at actually GW. But obviously, it's an entire semester in 1 hour is what I'm trying to do. But I'll try to focus it, make it short, which is this question of convergence, which is a question of where the world is going. And I'm gonna, okay, and this is who I am and all that. And the only disclaimer I'm gonna put is, what I'm about to tell you today is not a reflection of the US government or George Washington University, most importantly, the Debass family. They would disown me. So it's just me having a conversation with you guys. So, okay, so I'm gonna start with this. How many of you know John Legend? Right? Coolest cat, right? He has a song, and in one of the songs there's lyrics that goes, just that I remind myself this comment, and I want you to remember this lyric. It says, the future started yesterday, and we're already late. I repeat, the future started yesterday, and we're already late. Because sometimes when you think about the future, you think it's some elusive thing that is way in the distance you can't. But frankly, the future started yesterday. Your yesterday, the investment that you're making for this education will be giving you the benefits of tomorrow. So your future started yesterday at this, and eventually will put you on a different trajectory. But I always like to start with this so you understand. And I'm going to link it to you. It's not a random quote. I'm going to link it to. So I'm going to give you a brief history of the future. How many of you heard of the World Expo? Right? So the most recent one was in Dubai. I actually had the pleasure of attending it 2020, I think, 2021. And it's, the Emirates know how to throw something. You know this better than I do. There's an amazing exhibition. I actually went to Ghana, had an exhibition. Everyone had an exhibition. But this I'm trying to show you is that in 1900 in Paris, because this thing happens every 4 years. It goes around. It's essentially an expo to show where the future is going. So everybody comes to show their culture and where they think they're going. So in 1900 in Paris, when the French were hosting it, they put out a competition, an artistic competition, asking people, what does 2000 looks like? 100 years from now, imagine at that time in 1900, to think about 100 years from now is just so far. But someone who had the foresight asked the question, where do you think the world is going? I'm going to share with you these postcards that people rendered and to prove the point that the future started yesterday. So these are renderings of, this is someone's imagination, what the year 2000 looked like. If you look at it again, at that time, there was no technology, there's no computers, there's nothing like that. Someone has imagined this is the future of agriculture from that perspective. And entirely, there is no farmers on the thing. Someone is just mechanically thinking this is how they're going to farm. A very busy farmer, one guy doing everything. Okay? Again, 122 years ago. This is future of transportation. Look at that, like it's some, what do they look like? There's not planes that have not come out. It looks like birds because that's what they thought it's like. But someone is imagining crazy thoughts that people will be doing. It's kind of drone type of, you see actually, they call them aerocabs, where you can still go to, because at that time they have train stations. So they're imagining things that are, you've seen the convergence of different technologies that they're thinking about? Oh, sorry, I jumped there. This is connected homes. You guys hear of IoTs, right? That's a lady cleaning up the house, again, very mechanically speaking. This is the future of connected homes. I'm going to remind you, 122 years ago. Okay? This is aviation. This is what they thought people would be actually doing. Look at the police. It says aviation police. He's got this thing on the... Have you guys seen the new Black Panther? One of the characters that has that. Where do you think they got that from? Again, the future started yesterday, and we're already late. This is logistics and delivery. This is like drone. What do people are talking about right now? Drone deliveries. Okay, this is 122 years ago, someone imagining what that would look like. Future of manufacturing. We talk about 3D printing. At that time, the coolest thing was to get tailor-made. Someone is imagining they're going to do this, put it in a machine, and poof, pops out a clothing that comes out of that. Again, 122 years ago, someone is thinking about what technology could look like. Future of micromobility. Have you seen things like this right now? Please, I don't mean, when I'm repeating these things for an effect, 122 years ago, someone is imagining micromobility will look like this. This is my favorite one. How many have seen the movie Matrix? Morpheus, right? Look at that. Literally, in their thoughts, in the future, learning will be, you put stuff on your head, and boom. But the most funny thing is they're literally throwing books in this machine, and somehow it's going to come out and give people, ideas. Again, 122 years ago. Again, these are ridiculous, don't worry. But I want you to not think about the ridiculous element of it, because this is, again, 122 years ago. Right now, it looks crazy to you. But imagine if you were living in 22 years ago, for you even to think this is possible is the most magnificent thing that you have to think about. This is biotechnology. As you can see, she puts the eggs, boom, pops up the chicks. Okay? Virology. We know what happened with the pandemic. Look at that. They think they will be able to see, again, the viruses. Again, they're predicting what? Magnifying things, like those type of things is what they're thinking about. Everybody, you guys know about podcasting. People are now podcasting like this, sitting at the desk, broadcasting to the world. This is literally the future of broadcasting. Okay? And this is future of communication. Literally, that's a video of someone this person is talking to. Again, if you look at the technology, it looks like radio thing, because back in those days, radios were broadcasted this way. But someone is connecting the dots. They're seeing a convergence of how does this technology and this technology comes and gives you these concepts. And this is in 1916. You've seen these scooters. I don't know if in the US they have them. They have them everywhere, where these electric scooters. They were invented in 1916. And you'll see a photo of, this is the police in 1916 in the US, using that. Again, but we act like this thing just someone invented it today, because the future started yesterday and we're already late. So, I'm showing you these things to put a concept of how technology is evolving and how society is also evolving. So this thing shows you how the evolution of technology happening. If you look at, in the 1970s essentially is the buildings of computers. In the 80s, we connected computers. And then in the 1990s, where Fred and I were at Virginia Tech, we were actually the first batch who got email, I remember. Virginia Tech was one of the prominent campuses that got internet, connecting pages. The 2000s is where the Facebook and all of them emerged. they connected people. Then the 2010s was connected data. Now, in this 20s, we're talking about the convergence of everything. When you think about AI, an example I'm giving you, AI and other things, none of them stand on their own. You essentially have a collection of different technologies emerging and converging together to give you now an entire new business model, an entire society, frankly, are being produced by that. So the word convergence is the most important thing I want you to remember. On that note, I also want to tell you the convergence that's happening. This is just a story that I'm going to tell you from the work that I do in my day job, is the convergence of the public and private sector. In the US, just I'm giving you a US example because the data is similar in other economies. The US economic engagement in the emerging market in the 1970s, 70% of it used to be foreign aid, which is foreign assistance aid. Now, in 2020s, it's only 10%. About 90% of US economic engagement around the world is all private sector. Right? The ARM, the Cisco's, and all these folks who are doing things in Africa are doing that. So what happens in that? What does that mean? What it means is the 70s and 90s were, if you studied economics, it shows you it was all public sector developments that happened. Okay? If you look at policy imperatives, that's what happened. In the 2000s, then everybody got up and says it needs to be private-led, it needs to be market-driven. This is where when the Soviet Union collapsed and all those things happened, it was all about private sector. What are you seeing now? Now you're seeing a convergence of public and private collaborations. Why is that happening? Because the world problems are no longer at the auspices of public and private. For an example, when you talk about CCE, climate is not, if something happens to the climate, what would happen? There are no businesses to do, there are no people to manage, and all those kind of things happen. So there is also, you're seeing these wicked problems that the world is facing require the convergence of private and public institutions to happen. And similar things are happening in academia. I won't get too much into it. You guys know this. It's the same thing happened. The original higher learning institutions model from the 1800s to the 1990s was all about generalized education. Then we got into this, when the computer emerged, connectivity happened, everybody went to specialized. I don't have to even get a degree. I need to do this and do that. What are you going to see? Now you're seeing convergence of disciplines. It's no longer enough for you to be an electrical engineer. It's no longer, I'm going to be a mechanical engineer, or I was going to be an economist, all of that. Because the world is no longer an organization, it's an organism. So therefore, to solve problems, you will see a convergence of disciplines where no one is going to say, I'm proud of this, I'm proud of that. You have to be, I jokingly tell, how many of you know DJ Khaled? God did. What's the beauty of DJ Khaled? DJ Khaled is not even a rapper, right? What does he? He's like an orchestra maestro. He brings in Jay-Z, he brings in this, and all he says is, God did. And he's making a killing. Why is the case? Because he's seeing a convergence of disciplines. He brings different people. He curates experience and provide entertainment to you. But he, on his own, he's no longer even a DJ. He doesn't even mix anything. So that's the thought process I want you to kind of think. Convergence is going to be what's going to dominate your life in terms of as you move forward. So I'm giving you this preview in a sense to kind of go into this. I teach a class called Strategic Foresight in the business school at GW. And I want to kind of open up your mind, ready your mind how to think about the future, right? I want you to be that person in Paris 122 years ago to think this is where the world is going. Even though beyond your imagination, beyond your realization, you're still able to connect these dots and see where the world is. I'm not even talking about for you to think 120 years from now. I'm saying 5 years from now, because the rate of change right now is the speed, the velocity of change is so fast, what you know today might be completely obsolete tomorrow. So you have to be able to anticipate where the world is going. And there's an amazing Ugandan proverb I love that says, if you do not know where you're going, any road will take you there. Do you get the cusp of it? If you don't know where you're going, if you don't know where things are going, it doesn't matter where you go. You still got there because you don't know where you're going. So you never want to, put or shape your career not knowing where you're going. Because at the end, where are you going to be? The places that you never know you're going to get. But if you actually know, you'll be able to get somewhere. So foresight is a byproduct of imagination, intuition, and collaboration. And I'll go into a little bit of detail to kind of to give you a little more detail about that definition. So the rules of the game, meaning the foresight game, is the first thing is the future isn't predetermined. It sounds obvious to you, but a lot of people think it's kind of predestined. But for those of you who decided to come to this class today, you could have gone chill with your friends. You came today. Your life has now changed. I'm not talking about because you met me. Just profoundly, the interaction that you have here, it has now changed your trajectory of that because you made the determination you wanted to be here. It wasn't predestined for you to be here. And the other thing is we can observe the probable future that threats and trends in the present. Again, if you're able to see if you have the right antenna, you can see where things are going. In a way, you can anticipate what that is. And you can change where the future is going we're not talking about hallucinating about the future. We're talking about anticipating the future in a way that you can shape it. And most of you will be shaping at the bare minimum of your community, your country, and the continent. And I don't say this to gas you up. You are in an amazing institution who's going to put you in a path to do that. But the key element what I'm trying to give you is the superpower so you can see what's to come. Okay? And I'm not talking about prediction here. I don't do prediction. All I'm telling you is anticipating what to come. John Dater is a professor at the University of Hawaii. I love he's got 3 laws of the future, which are really, really cool. The future cannot be predicted because the future does not exist. Right? Because it hasn't happened yet, therefore it doesn't exist. So therefore, you can't predict it. Second, any useful statement about the future should at first seem ridiculous. Where did you hear that from? Where did you see that before? From those posters. That posters that you saw about the different futures that I showed you, any useful statement at that point in 1900, someone looked at us like, what are they smoking? Right? What are they drinking for them to think that way? Because if it does not look ridiculous, that means you're not being imaginative enough. Right? And I love that statement. Any useful statement about the future should at first seem ridiculous. The last one is we shape our tools, meaning the tools that you use to anticipate these things, and thereafter, our tools shape us. Right? And I'm going to give you a specific example on that. So there are 3 drives of change. And this is agnostic of a sector, whether you're studying engineering, you're studying computer science, you're studying biology, whatever you're studying, there are literally 3 drivers of change that you need to be aware of, which are the push from the past, the friction of the present, the pull from the future. And I will briefly go into each of them. The push from the past is the cultural norms that you have, right? And I'm going to talk a little bit about the sci-fi. If you look at sci-fi, I mean, what the rendering that I showed you in Paris is science fiction, and image-wise. And we all think about the different technologies that we take for granted right now. The phone that you're using, anything that you use, I guarantee you I'm a huge sci-fi fan. It's either in the Star Trek episodes or Star Wars episode. Some sci-fi film has already told you 40, 50 years ago about those things. And so the folks who came up with that, the future started yesterday for them because when they were kids, they were inspired seeing something awesome, and they say, I'm going to do that. So sci-fi has a huge role to play in terms of where the world is going. The other one is just population growth, and these things, your past kind of leads you and pushes you to go to the next episode. The other one is the friction of the present. These are the things that happen within a community, like whether it's your religion, commerce, established unions, industry leaders. And I'm just giving you different examples, old and new. The friction that we have. I was just joking about Fred and I being old, and you guys, that friction about old school and new school is what drives change, right? We might be resisting from some changes. For some of you, those are native to you. My kids are so native to social media, they don't mind broadcasting their entire life. I'm horrified by it. They look at me like I'm from 1900s, which I am. So the point I'm making for you is the friction of the present is the friction that leads you to the next level. The pain points that you have right now that your generation does not understand. Why does politicians do that? Why am I told to think this way? When you're asking that friction, when you have inherent friction inside of you, that's where the future emerges. Because then you have the power to shape it on your own ways. The other one is the pull from the future. These are obviously, you're here to learn emerging technologies, right? All the stuff that you're learning in the labs, AI or robotics and all those things are calling your name to tell you, here's the things that are coming up. They are in the edge. Some of them are not on the mainstream. And you're now imagining, okay, I have now the tools, so therefore I can then lead what the future will look like. So it's the calling. These technologies are a calling from that future, calling your name to say, what are you going to do with me? Not what someone has done, but what are you going to do for me using these tools in 10 years or 5 years from now? And the other ones are like evolution of humanity, right? We all, even in our own lifetime, I've seen how what we thought was normal is no longer normal, right? We evolve as humans. And those things also shape where the world is going. Because right now, I remember when Fred and I were in college, cell phones were not even there. If you had a pager, man, you are the coolest cat. I don't even know what you guys know what a pager is. It's like this thing you walk around with. Someone calls that number. It has the number of the person in it. You go into a landline, you call them. If you had that right here, man, you walk like a pimp like this. Like there was no tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? So if you look at the things that you take normalized happens because we evolve our society, and that shapes the future. So I want to give you an analogy of, so you don't have a hard time understanding. You all know what a GPS is, right? So I want you to think about, this is my own made up, a foresight positioning system. Because the future is like a geography. It has infinite number of locations that you can go to. You're not choosing where you need to go. So I could put my GPS and says, I want to be an engineer, I want to work at NASA, whatever your thing is. And that GPS, like right now, if you put your Google map, it said, I want to go to Accra at whatever hotel, it tells me where the road to get there, right? The future is the same way. And the input that you put in is the investment that you're making right now. When you say, I'm going to come to AC, I'm going to study this, I'm going to do that, you're inputting into your map where your destination might be. And so all I'm asking you is, if you know, in Google Map, if I know what my destination is, I can reverse engineer to it, right? To use your term. Reverse engineer to that destination. So it's not a very difficult thing. If you can understand GPS, you should understand a foresight positioning system. And what happens in life, right? In geography, in GPS, you're taking a road, the road is closed. What does the GPS gives you? Reroutes you and gives you a detour. Isn't that the same thing? When I went to Virginia Tech to be an engineer, clearly I'm not called an engineer right now, as you can see. It wasn't working for me, and I took an economics class. I loved it. And what happened? I took a detour. So that detour I took put me in this spot that I am right now. So it's not that difficult for you to understand in terms of where the future is going. And I want you to see, I use these images, by the way, they're not random images. This is a graphic artist from Ethiopia. His name is Fanuel. He's into NFTs. This guy really, really did well. He renders African images from the future. As you can see, this kid has a robotic dog, or I don't know what kind of animal it is. You see him, he still looks African, but it's from the future. So I love imageries are really, really important for you to see where the world is going. And I know you guys have amazing renderings. I love that. I was just telling Fred that. So the tools. And I love this, the Gambian proverb that you will see every problem as a nail. Okay? So in your case, actually, in your generation, the tools that are available for you are just downright illegal. There's so much. Right? You have the entire world in front of you. You have an entire tools that I can never dream of when I was your age to think about. So, but even despite all the tools that you have, I don't want you to think your only tool is a hammer, because if you can only think, I can only do this X because you've accepted the notion of who you are, and then the problem is that you're only going for the nail versus vast amount of land that you can see, other problems that you can see. And this is a three-horizon framework that different organizations that you use. You could Google it. This is not my concept. It's called the three-horizon. Most consulting firms use it. The Deloittes, the McKinseys use it to help companies so they can see where it's going. The stuff that I'm telling you about, the reason it's in business school is corporations use it. The reason they are able to thrive over time is they're actually shaping where the future is. Right now, see this pockets of the future embedded in present? The future is already here. You just have not woke up your antenna to see what's happening. And then you can shape it in that sense. And this is the same framework, just different rendering, so you can actually visualize what that means in that. I'm not going to spend so much time on this. This is the same process. The reason I'm showing you different tools on how to see where the world is going. And I use my own, this is my tool that I've developed. The confidence that I have, I like things that are simple. I'm not that bright. So I try to simplify my thing. And because I love the notion of the future being like a GPS thing, so what do? If you're racing to the future, you say, ready, set, go. So my tools are ready, set, go. And these things that I have in there, what are they? Can someone tell me what the icons are? What's the icon in the car? Sir? That's my man. That's the DeLorean from Back to the Future. Right? That's literally what took those characters to that thing. That is also from Back to the Future on the second one. When he went to the future, the thing that he wore, that he float. And that is from Matrix. You guys remember the Matrix, the blue pill? Yeah. So, in a sense, what I'm going to focus today, and I'm about to tell you, is just the ready. All I'm doing right now is just trying to get your minds to be ready so you can see how to think about the future. Okay? We don't have a lot of time for me to go through the whole thing. Oh, whoa. Sorry. This went too fast to the future. What? Okay. Oh, yes. This is perfect. Again, this is the same rendering. As you can see, the robot is the shepherd in this case. Okay. I said this already for you. There are no future facts. I want you to say it. There are no future facts. Because it hasn't happened yet. So, the fun begins now. So I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. The most important thing in the future is where, I'm sure the professor I've told you, every teacher that you have told you, ask the right questions. Then all of a sudden, magic happens if you ask the right questions. And you have to spark your curiosity. You have to be almost childish to a point in terms of the type of questions that you want to ask. And also be a great facilitator of a conversation. And I'll give you a bit of the traits of what the future foresight folks do. But I'm going to start with this. Has anybody seen this image before? You haven't seen it? Great. Because if you have seen it, I don't want you to mess up for everybody. So look at this and tell me what you see. Just raise your hand and tell me what you see. Don't worry, you're not being tested. I'm not grading you. Yes? A what? Okay. What else? Who else? What? Anybody else? Yes? Cow. That's great. Okay. Who else? Who else? Who else? Yes. Huh? A pig. Okay. Who else? Yes, sir. Huh? A lizard. Okay, I love it. Who else? Take one more. I want one of the ladies. Come on. Yes. A what? A tortoise. Great. Okay. So I must tell you, I have done this, I've shown this countless times at a lot of presentations in the US. I am right now baffled how you guys knew it was a cow. Because I've never seen it where someone can pick it up. It's a cow. That's the ear, and this is the mouth. You got it. Do you see it now? Do you see it? It's the cow is looking at like this. Look at me. See it? Okay, you know the trick this is a psychologist did this. It's called the Dallenbach's cow. The point of it is that you all focused on the black thing. You thinking the white is noise. Right? Everybody's thinking, I need to focus what's black because the white doesn't really make sense, too much of it. So your mind is tricking you to think about the things. You're not looking at it holistically. The future is like the white space. You're really focusing on the flashy thing, but without the white space, the black thing makes no sense, 0 sense. So the future is, once you've seen it, I've now told you the cow, you can never unsee it again. If I showed you again, look at a tortoise, you will never see it again. All you see is a cow. Right? You know why that's true? If you're in the market to buy a shoes or a car, whatever it is, all of a sudden, the moment that you're looking to buy something, you walk around the street, all you see is shoes. All you see is for sale car or for sale house. Because your mind is saying, the antenna is saying, we're looking for shoes. Our mind is very powerful to condition itself in that way. So thinking about the future is the same way, that you need to be aware about the entire picture, not the small side of it. Because the white noise is where the future is lying. It's hidden in there, but you're not focusing on it. So what makes a great foresight practitioner? For you to be better, I'm going to give you, the first one is you need to have an observing eye. That means to connect dots, what we just did. 2 of the gentlemen here who connected the dots, for you to be able to see X and Y are somehow related, therefore I need to match them together. So you always have to be observing of those things. The other one is the constant sense of wonder, almost childlike. I told you guys, you need to be always, I wonder this, I wonder that. This is, when you were a kid, that's all you thought about. You do crazy things. As you become a little more adult, the adults take that away from you. That's the tragedy of adulthood, is that we tell our kids, don't think crazy like that. And then you change it. I mean, I know Fred and I were just talking about that. Like literally, we take the most imaginative kids and they become dull because we accept them to be just robots. And the other one is you have to have almost unhealthy relationship with time travel. If you do not accept the notion that you can actually imagine where the world is, it's like a destination. That's the reason I use the GPS thing is, if I tell you I'm going to whatever, some destination in Accra, you can imagine getting there because you know where it is. The future is the same way. If you can actually feel, somehow you can transfer yourself to a distant future or even tomorrow, then you are able to see the things that are happening. The other one is the old South Africans say the Ubuntu, right? The future is highly collaborative. There is no way, whatever future that you're thinking, you will never do it on your own. And I don't say this because we're Africans, we all are communal kind of stuff, but we is always greater than I. And I'm giving you this thing, you know that Dodge horse? It's an amazing story. If you have a single Dodge horse, don't quote me in the numbers, like one of them can pull like 8,000 weight, 8,000 pounds, I don't know what the kilogram is. If you put two of them, you would think, mathematically speaking, what would it be? 16,000. But actually, they could pull 24,000. But let me remind you, but if they are trained well, they can pull 32,000. So what does that tell you? It is basically proves to you the mathematical impossibility that 1 + 1 is greater than 2. And only your imagination could take it there. The other one is empathy and humility. We have a lot of that as Africans. You understand what empathy is. You understand when your neighbor, when your friends go through pain or all those kind of things, you can feel them. And it's important. The reason empathy and humility is important, you almost have to empathize where the future is going. It's almost like an individual you're dealing with, that your future self. Like me, when Fred and I was in 1996 to now 2023, we're two different individuals. Can I empathize where I'm going? I need you to also have an empathy to your future self, where that person would be. And the other one, the most important one, is a wicked sense of humor. Do not, I repeat, do not take yourself too seriously. You're not that important. In the grand scheme of things, do not take yourself too seriously. Don't take your title, your family name, your whatever you think, your credentials mean nothing. We all are humans. If you accept that notion, humor comes out of that. You almost have to, like the self-deprecating joke, like if you are able to make joke of yourself, what does that do to others? It gives them the freedom to laugh with you. That means you give them the freedom to give you crazy ideas. And when they give you crazy ideas, crazy things happen, like what you saw in Paris in 1900. I'm sure those artists had a crazy sense of humor for them to think those kind of things. The mindset. And this is... Okay, and this is... William Gibson is a sci-fi writer. How many of you know Bill Gibson, William Gibson? If you don't know, you need to know him because he has amazing books, sci-fi. And this is a very famous quote that says, the future is already here. It's not evenly distributed. There's a comment that I made already. It's already here. It's not evenly distributed means if you do not know like that you saw the cow, that means you haven't seen it. It's already here. It's happening in front of you. You can smell it. You can touch it. But you just decided not to awaken your senses to see it. So the quote is a very powerful one. Okay, now, there are two things I'm about to end very quickly. There are two ways you can think about the future. No, actually, there's only one way to think about it, but there are conventional way and another way. One of them is based on, even when you take maths classes and all that, you're always asked the question, what is X? Right? Everything that you solve is for X. What is X? And when you do X, what happens is, this happens. The conventional wisdom is right now, and I'm going to give you an exercise. What's 4 + 4? Come on. If you can't answer that question, you should not be here. What's 4 + 4? Does anybody has any other answer rather than that? It's not a tricky question. I'm just asking. Since you guys are brainiacs, you might blow my mind. 4 + 4 is 8. You have a different response? 0. Oh, wow. That dude is from the future, bro. That's what I'm talking about. But the point I'm making is, the question is, what is 4 + 4 is 8? And that's our conventional wisdom. The conventional wisdom says, you have a set of problem, I'm going to tell you what the inputs are, which is 4 + 4, and you give me an answer. You get it right or wrong. It's very binary. But how about if I flip the question differently, and instead of asking what is, how about if I ask you, what if? Because the two most powerful English words, in my opinion, are these two words. What if? Because what if it shows you possibilities. What if I do this and that? What if I combine this chemical to this chemical? Every invention came out of the what if question. No invention, I'll say this boldly, came out of the question as what is. Because that means the invention has already happened. The answer we know already. What is the fun of that? What if, on the other hand, is crazy. So I'm going to demonstrate. Now, this is the collaborative wisdom. What two numbers equals to 8? 0, 8. 2 and 6. It goes on and on and on to the break of dawn. The answer is infinite because I didn't tell you it needs to be whole numbers. You could have said, you give me decimal numbers, you could be fraction numbers. It's literally infinite. And this is how you answer the future, because the future is not a finite thing. There is not a single future. There are multiple futures that are out there. The question is, what is your preferred future you're trying to get at? So it could be 7 plus 1. You might have chosen 6 plus 2. You might have chosen what? -9 plus 1. It doesn't, you know what I mean? So the point is, the future is not a single destination. And the inventions, the innovations, all the stuff that you're creating need to be questioned that way. That you know the promised land. What you're saying is, I am trying to solve that thing. Your destination is the same. Fred showed us this amazing inventions that you guys created about the COVID. I wasn't here when you were making it, but I am confident you were asking the questions, what if? What if we use this product to this? What if we do this? You made errors, so that doesn't work out, that's not the right answer. You went on and came up with an amazing product. So your mindset should never be answering the question, what is? Because what is a memory question? I'm asking you to remember to tell me, what is x plus x? What if I'm now getting into your different type of, even subconscious, for you to think about different things? Now, I'm going to show you this about the problem of thinking about this. This is from 1981. There was a famous magazine called Byte. It's before my time. I was literally a little kid when this came out. But I want to showcase this to you. It was in 1981, similar to what I showed you earlier from Paris. Someone predicted what? Predicted what? So how many of you have like the watch? On her right here. Okay, someone said the computer in 1981 will be miniature. So they got something right. They asked the question, hey, it's going to go to this, the movement to micro mobility, micro things is going to happen. But the greatest thing that what the concept called the paradox of the present was that, but they're still stuck in 1981. So in 1981, the memory we know is a floppy disk. Fred would remember this. A floppy disk, and literally, if you look at the computer, the actual screen, it's literally a computer terminal. They didn't imagine a touch screen. They didn't imagine voice recognition. All they did was, I could see this thing's happening, but they still did not see the full picture. So it's called the paradox of the present. The other thing is the worst poverty. I want you to remember this. The worst poverty you can suffer from is not of money. It's of imagination. Because if you do not have that, you're screwed. Because you're not able to change your own life and others in that way. So the other one, ambidextrous thinking, is like the ability to think in different ways. In that way, someone could have imagined, hey, why couldn't it be a touch screen? Why couldn't it be like the memories inside? Why would it be the floppy outside? Why would it be like someone should have asked a pointed questions of the what ifs. What if you do this? What if you do that? So I'm going to end. This is stuff that it just came to me after visiting you yesterday. I'm going to leave you with 3 takeaways from my conversation with you all, okay? And these are, the first one is the very important thing that I want you to remember, this quote. This is Peter Drucker. He's a well-known, he's a consulting guru. He's like a well-known management consulting guy. And I love it because we right now, as humanity, are going through a turbulence. whether it's war, whether it's climate change, whether it was the pandemic, there's a turbulence happening. And I want you to remember the greatest danger in times of turbulence is not the turbulence itself, but to act with yesterday's logic. Okay? Remember this, because when a turbulence is happening, yeah, like whether it's the pandemic or whatever, if you're just thinking about, oh, what did we do 10 years ago, or the Spanish flu happened in 1920s, you're screwed because the world is not in 1920s. You cannot use yesterday's logic to solve tomorrow's problem. There's a complete mismatch. It's mathematically not correct. It's different formulas. It's like playing chess and checkers. So, the takeaways. If you don't have this already, please do this. Create a sci-fi club. It should almost be, I'm going to tell this, Fred, it should almost be a requirement that you all, I mean, this is the coolest requirement that you could watch a movie or a TV show about the future. So you can see a glimpse of an imagination where the world is going. I'm not telling you what movies to watch. There's tons of them out there, what shows to watch. But it is essentially almost having a sneak preview where the world is going with someone else's imagination. I'm not saying follow that future, okay? Because there are infinite futures, as I showed you with the what 2 numbers 2 equals to 8. But you're now seeing somebody else's glimpse of where the world is going. So then you could say, oh, what if I saw that thing? What if we do this and that? And then you come up with your own reality. Because sci-fi are essentially almost an acrobatic exercise. It's the same way. You want to be the best runner in the world, and I come from the east, from Ethiopia. We're the best long runners. We run like crazy. And if you want to be that, you run in these mountains like crazy for you to be the best in that. By the way, just because I'm the worst runner. I should have been born on this side. I'm much of a soccer player than a runner. But the point I'm making is the mind is the same way. You have to do mental acrobatics for your mind to be comfortable to think about what's to come, okay? Because the last one I'm going to say is, you cannot realize what you cannot imagine. So if I cannot imagine myself to be the best engineer in Ghana, then how am I going to make that real? There's an old saying in the part of the world I come from that goes, what that means is, you can never miss a place, a country you've never visited. So if you've never visited the future through sci-fi and other things, you can't miss it. And the word I always use my kids, so I tell them, I dearly miss the future because I can see it. I can feel where the world is going, so I miss it. I long for it. So you have to have that kind of intimate relationship to where you think, because you are literally, unless if I'm mistaken my own, you all are here because you're trying to shape your future. You're not here just being curious. You're here to literally say, I want to be this. But for you to do that, you need to see where the world is going. The next one, and these were when I was a kid in Ethiopia, there was a show called Space 1999. I don't know if you've seen it here. I don't know if they ever showed it here. But it's a show about, it's like Star Trek, Star Wars kind of thing. And it changed my entire mind about where the world is going. You already seen Back to the Future, and there was cartoons called The Jetsons. These were the future insights that I saw. Like some of them were distant futures. They were like 2100. It was crazy. It's not important where they were taking me. What was important than the journey for me to think it's possible to think about the future. So you need to create your own way that. The other thing related to this thing, I say these things without knowing what it is. Do you guys give storytelling? Is there a class on storytelling? Like entrepreneurship. Okay. And I want to emphasize this. The greatest superpower you can ever have is not of engineering, is not of some mechanics. It's the ability to tell a story. There's a great quote by Plato, the Greek philosopher, those who tell stories rule the world. those who tell stories to the world. Whatever invention you come up with, whatever creative stuff you can imagine, if you can't capture my imagination, my childlike story, then I will never listen to you. So storytelling is the most critical traits that you can have. So please go, there are resources out there to tell you how to tell a story. We all are natural storytellers. We all, especially in Africa, that's all we know. That's literally what we know. Your dad, your granddad, and all of them, they're telling us stories after story, especially Eastern culture. Same, I mean, we were talking about if you go to India, if you go to China, all Eastern culture are all based on stories. The question is, but the stories we hear are about the past. What I'm telling you is, you have the responsibility or the great, awesome, almost obligation to be ancestors. I need you to know this. You are your children's ancestors. 100 years from now, remember that things? Someone in Ghana in 120 years is going to say, those guys in Academic City did something awesome. It gives you goosebumps when you think about that. Believe it or not, I hate to tell you this, you guys are going to get old. We're all going to pass. The question is, what kind of ancestor will you be? I have another thing, but I don't have time to show you. This is a video I wanted to show you, but we don't have time. The other one, how many of you have heard of Chindungu? You heard of it, right? It's really an awesome, I use it in my class and in my office. It's a Japanese art of creating really bizarre and funny tools that everybody in every life, and I'm going to show you a video that shows you that. It's essentially, it's supposed to be completely impractical. And when you see the videos, it's funny and you'll get the point. Is that it gives you the freedom to be silly. There are still mechanical things. You're inventing things. I'm going to put a shoes, and one of them is going to show you it's a lady's shoes. It has umbrella on it, so the shoe doesn't get wet. Right? Silly, but it gave you the license to be silly. Remember when I told you, don't take yourself seriously? It's not just about yourself seriously. Don't think your knowledge too seriously. Inventions come out of crazy stuff, crazy thinking. And Chindungu, the Japanese, have done this for ages, where they create these crazy things. So you need to have your Chindungu moment. When you guys are in group projects, and the prof tells you, I need you to guys come up with some crazy thing happened, some flooding happened, I need you to come up with some mechanical things. Start doing crazy stuff. That doesn't make any sense. Because your mind all of a sudden gets the freedom to think, to breathe easily. And then the good, awesome stuff comes out of that. So Google it. I'm going to show you a video if it works for me. And look at this. Like, the guy has the umbrella flipped, and he is saving water. I tell you, none of you will do this. Unless if you run out of water, you might have to do that. But they're just combining two things. The bottle. Look at the kid. They want to clean the room. They just put stuff like, they tell the kid to run around. And he cleans the room. It's silly stuff. But that exercise of that imagination that you can have is always great. I don't want to, I know we're running out of time. So there is a video. You could go to Google it and say Chindungu. There are tons of video that shows you. So I'm not going to show it here much. I think I'm done. Is it? Yeah. And I want you to know this. I have seen the future, and its name is Africa. Do you know what the mask is? This is a mask for Benin. I purposely commissioned that art so I can see a futuristic Africa that is African, that is robotic, that has all these things, but no one can doubt that mask is not African. And again, I'm quoting to you, that I have seen the future, and its name is Africa. I don't say this to you because you're Africans. I'm stating a fact that based on demographics, based on land mass and all that, the continent is the future. The only issue, because if it does not, it's all on you. I'm done. I don't know how much time we have, but I'm happy to answer any questions. Anybody, any questions?
So when we're in Virginia Tech, you were the president of the African Students Association. Actually, you handed over to me.
Yeah.
And what was interesting for me was that you hung out with everybody. Now, I could have predicted that you would be a diplomat, but how did you make that decision?
That's awesome. That's a beautiful question. Yeah, because when you're in college, especially when you're in college that's predominantly white, you look for your tribe. People who look like you, people who speak like you, people, whatever it is, you look for affinity. What is the old saying? Birds of the same feather flock together, right? You just look for your affinity. But one thing I learned earlier on is when you are in a minority space, then you do not want to have a minority mindset, because the world is not run by minorities, right? So you need to then have the mental flexibility to hang around with folks who might not look like you, but they are as minority as you are, right? You know, they might not come from the same geography, but they have the same. And my greatest friends I ever made, Fred knows this, was at the drill field playing soccer. Why? I have no idea what their languages are. I didn't speak Spanish, I did not speak French, I did not speak any other language, but I spoke football. In that field, we knew where the guy was going to be. It was like, it was unwritten, it was unspoken. That created a different bond than anything else. So, the point I'm making for you is, great question is, when something makes you uncomfortable because the people are not speaking the right language with you, they don't look like you, whatever, or they're in a different field. Oh, I'm an engineer, that guy's an economist, or he's a sociologist. Please be uncomfortable. Be comfortable with uncomfortableness. Because change, and actually dramatic change, happens when you're in an uncomfortable position. And none of us as humans do not like change. None of us want that. Because you get comfortable, I'm cool with this, no one wants to touch me. But growth comes out of being uncomfortable. And that's, Fred's comment to me was like, how did you get along with anybody? Because they did make me uncomfortable. Because they would speak things that I didn't understand, but I was confident enough in myself to say, it don't matter, it doesn't bother me. Then you create a bridge with these folks. And that's important for you. As you emerge, I'm sure there is a diverse set of folks here that you have. The world is going to wait for you. It's as diverse as anything else. Be comfortable to connect with people, despite the fact they might not look like you. They might not be the same gender. Whatever your definition of what you think is your tribe, don't forget you're human at the end of the day. You have the same pain, the same drive, and all those kind of things. But great question. Anybody else?
Question?
Someone has to ask me a question. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I want to ask how did studying economics lead you into technology?
Beautiful. Great question. Two things. One, the reason I fall in love with economics, because economics rule the world. Every decision, and I'm not saying economics from money perspective. Don't get that wrong. Economics actually have nothing to do with money. If you really know economics, you will know what I'm talking about. Economics is about decisions that you make. Choices that you make, right? The choice that you make to say, remember, if you've ever taken an economics class, it's called what? Opportunity cost. What decisions that you make? The opportunity cost for you to be here right now, you could have been doing something else, right? So economics gave me an opening to think about how decisions that I'm making. If I'm going to say I'm going to do this and do that, it's all related to an outcome that I'm looking at. The best forecasters in the world are economists, right? They're always wrong. I guarantee you that. They don't call it the dismal science for nothing. But the point is, you're trained to anticipate, to forecast where things are going. That's kind of the analytical thinking. I'm much more in the different type of thinking of saying because believe it or not, the world is so much complex than data that you can collect. Right? It's a very complex system. It's called systems thinking. If you want to read more, look for articles or a book about systems thinking. Because the world is an organism. It's not an organization that you could divide. Like, I'm going to talk to this department, that department. The world is an organism. It's interconnected intimately. So for you to know those things, you have to have a systems levels of thinking for you to get that. That's how I got into that. Anybody else? Yes, sir, in the back.
Yeah, thank you for your presentation. One of the challenges we have with training students in Africa is that they come with a stereotype from the high schools and secondary schools. We already saw in their mind that if you come first, if you do very well in your secondary school, you are the best. And then when they come to the university, they find themselves in an environment where there are still replicas of that stereotype. I'll give you an example. Sometimes those in engineering or medicine feel superior to those in the other areas. So how do we disabuse the mind of our students? From the background that I have of you, you are a diplomat, but you didn't go to school to study public diplomacy or something like that. I also know that the Chancellor of Germany studied physics or engineering, and then the United Nations man was a physicist too. He had a PhD in physics, and he became a diplomat. So how do we disabuse the mind of our students? At Academic City, we talk about unified teaching, we talk about experiential, existential, all these kinds of things that we talk about here. But still, you see our students, they still have this stereotype in their mind that, okay, I came to do science, it has to be science. And so they pay less attention to entrepreneurship and leadership and things like that. So in Africa, what do you think we can do to disabuse this stereotype? Thank you.
I love it. Great question. So my answer to you is, I was telling this to Fred, if you'd have asked me when I was in college that I would work for the US Department to be a diplomat, I would have laughed at you. It was never on my compass to think that way because of that limited mindset I have. I am an immigrant. I know the State Department is the entity that gave me visa to the country. How could I come back and represent it? It's just crazy thoughts, right? Because that's what I was confined around my imagination. But what do I do? Then I got exposed to the field. I talked to people who told me, yeah, you could be one. I'm like, oh, I didn't know that. So the greatest thing that you could do for young people, there's always people say, what do they say? Think outside the box, right? I have a grand idea, like even a radical idea. There is no box. For you to think out the box assumes that there is a box that you gotta find a gate to get out with. All I'm telling you is there is no box. Especially this generation, the amount of information, the amount of opportunities that are following. And I told you about the convergence thing. Please don't think I want to be this engineer, that. You need to have a convergence of thought process. And I'm sure the academic background that they're giving you is going to be holistic. If you're an engineer, you better know how to think as an economist. Because if you're coming up with stuff that makes no sense to the world, it's futile. Right? So you have to have a very broader way of thinking so you don't come with this notion, I'm going to do X, therefore I'm going to have this Y career, and that's all I could do. I am a testament to that. I didn't study political science, foreign policy, none of that. So therefore, opportunities that's going to be in front of you will open up doors for you, but the only way you can open them is if you feel like your sense of belonging to that. So never, do yourself a favor. Never disqualify yourself from an opportunity. Let the thing tell you you're disqualified. Because the world is very easy to tell you that. It could slap you and say, yeah, no, stay in the lane. But in most cases, almost 95% of the time, it is us who disqualify ourselves.
You see, in this world we're in, especially in Africa here, given the past 5-10 years, the way things are going, you as a scientist, you are restrained. You are thinking about time. You are thinking about money. You are thinking about stability, health, family, other things. It imprisons your imagination in a way. How are you able to break free of all that, even though they are there? But to break free of all that, to create these ideas, to bring the future now. That's what.
It's a great question. I think the irony of that question is that everything what you said has related to your future. Everything. if you have an anxiety where I don't know where I'm going to get money, how am I going to do that? Everything is that you're anticipating, I don't know where the world is going, therefore I might be stuck in this. What is the best way to do that? Is to think, at least I have the temporal ability to say, what is the things that I need to do so I can be of a place of where I can make money, right? Or how could I be in a place where I can free myself from stress from a family? Whatever that is. Like, every one of us have stress. Doesn't matter, you think people have got it going? No, they haven't. So what I'm saying is don't take it personal. Don't think like the world is, I'm carrying the weight. Everybody's carrying the weight, at least according to them. We as humans, the greatest thing that we lack is gratitude. Right? So the point I'm making for you, yes, those things are there. They will always be there. What is the alternative for you? Let me just ask you a question. Let me indulge you. Forget what I said today. Forget about these futures thinking. What is the alternative for you? The alternative for you is you're stuck. Burdening what you have right now, no change happens. What happens with that? Because you got comfortable with stress. We even get comfortable with the pain that we have. Like, I'm cool with that. I'm used to it. What am I going to do? Nothing. But the only way you can unstuck is to say, can I think of, what's your name? Huh? Benjamin. Can I think of Ben 3.0 from now? Is there a Ben 3.0 that does not have the stress, that does not have XYZ? You can literally reverse engineer. You're in engineering school, reverse engineer to that. And I know it's easier said than done. I don't mean to say like, today you're going to like, be me Scotty, and you're there. I don't mean to be sci-fi about it. But even in that, like that's how I deal with my thing. I got issues with this, that. I think about, okay, where does that guy, what does Thomas look like 5 years from now, or a year from now, or tomorrow for that matter? I don't want you to be thinking in the future as if it's like some elusive thing. 5 minutes, I mean, an hour ago was in my yesterday now. You know what I mean? I just want you to have a fluidity of time in that perspective. But always think about the alternative. If you don't think this way, the alternative is that you're stuck. You become useless. It become, as you said, what do you call it? It's like debilitating. So the only way you can unlock it is your mind to say, I got this. I could do these things. I could make the most. The decision you made to come here is part of that, right? So to me, you're already in the right path. You're already in a DeLorean called AC. This institution is a time machine. It's trying to take you where the world is going. The labs that have been created is trying to tell you, we're giving you all the tools. They're almost giving you an unfair advantage. They're giving you superpowers for you to do that. And if you're not excited about that, check your pulse. Is that it?
Take 2 more questions.
2 more questions.
Earlier on, you stated Africa is the future. I want to know why, because we are currently under the rule of corrupt politicians and foreign influences. So I want to know how Africa will be the future.
Okay, great question. The dude is asking me a loaded question. He's trying to get me in jail. No, I mean, and I think we could talk about it. I think the question of corruption, the question of things not working, policies not working, is nothing new. What I'm telling you, that statement is based on, remember what I told you about the push from the past, the pull from the present, and the friction of the present? You just expressed to me a friction with your present. You're saying these corrupted politicians. You basically say, I hate this stuff. Why am I doing that? So then what are you going to do about it? I'm not saying you. I'm not talking about you as an individual. You as a society, as the youngest generation, what are you going to do about it? Remember what I said earlier? You have the greatest potential to be great ancestors. So then what is your generation of politicians would be? Because the gentleman in the back who asked me that question, you studied engineering. What stops you from being a leader? Don't consider politicians like the example he gave. The German leader was a physicist. It's not like, the problem is we look at politicians as if they're a separate class that study some politics thing and they have nothing to do with the rest of society. I guarantee you, without me knowing it, purely on statistics basis, 1 or 2 of you will become politicians in the future. Now, and I want you to remember this moment when this gentleman asked, why is this happening? I need you to take the burden of that question with you the rest of your future. Because the future started yesterday, we're already late. We've already talked about it here. So when you become of influence and power, remember that burden is on you not to act in the way you do not want to act. I'll end on that. Oh, there's one more question? Oh, the lady, I cannot say no to her. I have 3 daughters, so they would kill me. Please.
So in the ending of your lecture, you said that the future is Africa. But here in Africa, we look out for the other continents to develop. So what are we going to do to break that barrier in our heads we've created that the world is developing and Africa is behind, where you say Africa is the future?
Great question, Ahmed. I'm going to repeat myself, but I'm going to say this. At the end of the day, Africa cannot be a destination of innovation. It needs to be the source of it. You know, my dream for you, at least at AC, I hope that arm sign will not be here forever. I hope there is going to be a Ghanaian brand that would power this institution. And there's nothing to stop you from doing that. That's the mental state that I'm telling you about, is that we are comfortable that another nation or another entity has to come and power you. And again, I made the prediction earlier. I don't do much prediction, but I could postulate right now. Maybe 1 or 2 of you politicians, I guarantee you, 1 or 2 of you will be an entrepreneur, who will be successful, who will be the next semiconductor company out of Africa. I just want you to accept that. I'm not here to gas you up. I'm not giving you some crazy thought process. I'm telling you, imagine the 1900 Paris guy who did that rendering. Be that person. What are you going to render about how AC will be powered? If you accept the notion, the only technologies you can use is coming from outside, we're in time loop. Time repeats itself again and again. You need to break that loop. The only way you can break that loop is to say, I shall do that. Don't wait your neighbor for her to do it, for him to do it. You need to say, I need to do that. Against odds, I'm not saying it's going to be easy. Never, I will tell you that. But you need to take personal responsibility to say, I shall do that. And you're in an institution who's allowing you to do that. You have no excuse anymore. You literally have zero excuse for you to think about this and that. You have the tools to do it. Work together. It's not just about you. You need to be talking to amongst yourself, create the kind of stuff, create the next stories of the, because if we don't do that, I'm going to end about something crazy. I told you about storytelling and sci-fi. If Africa doesn't do that, when I say Africa is the future, then the flip side of it would be Africa will be the past. You know what's going to happen? We will be a destination. The continent will be a destination for tourism. For what? For time tourism. You want to check out 1954? Go to Gabon. You want to check out 1960-something? Go to this destination. It's controversial when I'm saying I'm provoking something that, yes, that will happen. Are you comfortable with that notion? Is anybody comfortable with that notion? Then don't be. Thank you.